but the next player, context is very key, and it's a player who you'll be very familiar with, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I mean I've included him in the assists section of the plan here, but the one that, because of what we've just said on about context, the one thing that really irks me, and it shouldn't. I should have more going on in my life that this shouldn't annoy me. But is whenever I see statistics, and I use that with sort of air quotes, that get bandied about on Twitter about Trent Alexander-Arnold lost possession 30 times in this game, and everyone's going, "Oh, that's shocking. That's terrible. He mustn't be that good." And it's like, well, no. Again, context is important here. What kind of passes is he trying? He's in that little space just over the halfway line. What about those crosses and those passes, the crossfield balls that he's trying to bend into the penalty area, which 1 in 10 may work, but think about it. Who else is capable of doing that in the Premier League? Is that it probably doesn't annoy you as much as it annoys me, but is that something which has sort of been on your radar as well?
No, absolutely, and it does annoy me just as much. I mean, you can call me just as sad as you if you want to as well. But no, it does, and that's where I think that, again, I come back to it with our podcast. But that's where I think that a lot of people who are a little bit more in the know about football analytics and statistics have a kind of a duty of care to help to kind of maybe educate people who might offer that statistic without any context, because they're not doing anything wrong. They're just trying to work out, trying to build a picture out of something that they see in the numbers. But I think we all have a duty of care to help people to add that context and realize that there's more to it and there's a reason why that statistic exists. But yeah, as you say, if you just throw statistics at people and hope that some of it sticks, then I think that's potentially quite a risky game to play, I think. But I mean, you're right with the possession loss one. Absolutely, and we do something. We use this quite a lot in our articles in the Athletic of turnover percentage, of essentially being of the total touches that a player has. How many times do they lose possession? So if they have the ball 100 times and they lose possession half of the time that they have it, then they have a turnover percentage of 50%. So quite a simple kind of metric to work from, but the people who have the highest turnover percentage, as you say, are typically the ones who have the high risk, high reward pass. And you've got to be careful of using it, because the people who are highest on this are the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne and Trent Alexander-Arnold, as you say. So, I mean, just because someone's high or bad on something, so to speak, exactly as you say, does that mean that they are then bad players? I think we can safely say that the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne are not bad players. So that in itself shows that there's got to be more to this statistic than just that that this player isn't very good at it. And of course, that context is that they are going for that difficult pass, and the one which, when done well, can lead to a chance on goal. And that's why they are the players they are.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think sometimes it's used by engagement-heavy accounts who are just trying to use it as a stick to beat him with, or a Liverpool player in general, because we know there is that, and I've never quite understood it, but hey, it's one of those things that I'm sure you've had to put up with plenty of times. Obviously, I've put him in the assists column, and I haven't really done any digging really into this, and perhaps the reasons why. I was hoping to leave this to you, being the Liverpool fan, but 25 assists over the last 2 seasons, and just 3 this season. It's actually in line with his XA. With it being around 3.1. What do you attribute the drop off to? Because we've seen plenty said about why Liverpool have had problems this year. But I mean, what's your assessment of the lull? I think, and I think it's a temporary lull in Alexander-Arnold's sort of creative output.
Yeah, and I mean, like a lot of players, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of those where you say that he's too good to not come out of this stronger. So I think it is very much a temporary one. And again, if you were to look at it over a longer period, overall, he's still doing incredibly well across his whole career so far, which is completely in its infancy as well. He's so young. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I actually don't have too many numbers in my notes sort of written down on Trent, because maybe it's because I feel so passionately about it as a Liverpool fan that I can just rattle it all off. But I think that, a key thing, I mean, you can't hide away from the whole injuries thing, but I think it's more nuanced than just saying they've had injuries, so they're struggling. But there's definitely, he's getting forward less. I don't know what his actual kind of average position on the pitch is from this season to last season, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that he is a lot deeper. And I think that's because there's a lot of less protection behind him. So he was able to really bomb on and essentially just camp in the final third, where knowing that he would have essentially Jordan Henderson just tucking into that sort of half space on the right hand side of him. Whereas I think he's just thinking twice a little bit as to whether to go or not, and just knowing to stay a little bit closer, because he knows that he hasn't got the likes of Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez to protect the defensive line. So definitely, I think the fact that his numbers are down is that he's also not attempting to get forward quite as much. And it's a definite tactic that Virgil van Dijk each time on the left, in the left centre half position, would just play a raking ball to Trent, who would always be and often be high on the right already, and they'd be able to start the attack from there. Whereas this season, I think they're building through the midfield a lot more. There's fewer switches of play from the defence, because it's a different defender each time. But judging by the recent weeks, that he's not able to already pick up high positions and receive it there, and then there's space in behind. And yeah, I could go on for hours on this, but I definitely think that it's simply because he's not getting the ball in as many dangerous areas to do that. I don't think the quality of his balls are any different.
I'm satisfied with that. That is the scouted football opinion. That is by proxy now. That is, I'm very, I'm content that Trent will come back maybe not bigger, but better. I mean, I don't think he's going to grow anymore. He's not that young, but he will come back just as good, if not better, than he was before. And obviously, as you say, it's nuanced because again, with assist data, it relies on other people to help you out in that regard.